If you follow my channel, you know that this is a topic that we explore a lot. Watches as investments and the intersection of art and craftsmanship and financial gain. And I think this whole conversation is a lot more nuanced than we want it to be. The correct watch geek answer is never buy for the investment, buy watches that you love. But the truth is, watches are expensive, and one of the side benefits of watch collecting is value retention. Even if it doesn't accrue value or be worth more, it still will retain some kind of value. Your watch will never be worth nothing. For me, time equals money. The money that I have in my account is there because I have exchanged my time to do something, and my time is the most precious resource that I have. So how I spend my money really matters to me. I think this might be unpopular to say, but I also think it's true. For a lot of people, not everyone, but for many people, their initial interest in watches was because of investment potential and value retention. I hope that's not where your interest stayed. I hope it's evolved past that point. But it's one of the factors that gets people in the front door and interested in watches. People are interested in money and they're interested in watches, so it's an understandable meeting point. There is only really one thing that makes a watch a good investment, and that's supply and demand. We can try to make it more complex than that and use big words, but when you boil it down to its essence, to its most raw form, it's supply and demand. If there are 1 million people a year who want a stainless steel Rolex Daytona, but only 40,000 of them being produced, they will command a premium on the secondary market because they are super desirable and few are made. But everyone knows that. So the next big question would be, why don't watch brands create the watches that people actually want to buy? Keeping on Rolex, if 1 million people want a stainless steel Daytona and only 200,000 people want an Air King, why wouldn't you make the product that more people want? And this really comes down to luxury watches being a Veblen good. It's a bit more complex than that, but to save this from being a very long video, we're going to paint in broad brushstrokes. So Veblen goods are items for which demand increases as price increases, due to it feeling more exclusive and like more of a status symbol. These goods contradict the basic law of demand due to their appeal being their exclusivity. The more exclusive and hard to get something is, the more out of reach it is for the average consumer, the more our weird little monkey brains want it. It almost becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy or like a hype loop. If we stay on Rolex because it is a brand that most people are familiar with, if people know the Daytona is a safe place to store their money, they are more likely to want one. And as secondary prices increase, so does desirability and brand awareness outside of the hobbyist sphere. It's almost like compounding interest on speculation. So, under Veblen's theory, brands are pretty incentivized to keep production low enough to maintain exclusivity, but high enough to keep people interested and hopeful. I think this may be one of the places that Rolex authorized dealers have misstepped a little bit. Sentiment towards Rolex in the enthusiast community is pretty fractured. If you follow my channel, you know that I love Rolex. I wish I didn't love them as much as I do. I would say I'm a very low-level Rolex collector, but I definitely aspire to add more to my life. But a lot of people hate them, and I truly believe a lot of this hate stems from poor customer experiences from the authorized dealer and being made to feel like, you'll never own that watch. I mean, that's been a factor for me at least. Fortunately, it's not like that at my local AD, authorized dealer, but I've been shopping other places where they make you feel horrible, and it hurt my sentiment towards a brand that I otherwise really like. Like I said at the start of the video, I really equate time and money. The money that I have and I've saved, I have done through exchanging my time. So to be laughed off or be made to feel small when I'm trying to spend my resources here with you, I don't know. It's a really gross feeling. I completely understand why. Yeah. But this is where I want to talk about today's fabulous video sponsor and why I love partnering with IFL so much. They make truly rare creations that you can just buy. You don't need to have an extensive purchase history or beg them. You just have to get your foot in the door before they're all sold out or before you miss your time frame. So this is the newest IFL creation, and this is an exclusive collaboration with the brand Venezianico. So this is the Venezianico Arsenal Venus, and it is only available for the next 72 hours, which is crazy. This piece is a celebration of Renaissance art and Venetian craftsmanship. Venezianico is really the spirit of Venice captured in watch design, drawing inspiration from the city's rich heritage and blends traditional Italian artistry with modern horological excellence. I think this might be the most IFL creation I've seen to date. I always say IFL is where artistry and horological passion meet. So they customize dials, a lot of which are hand-painted, create sculptures, release unique watch rolls. Artistic skill and craftsmanship is at the heart of what they do. So to bring Botticelli's Birth of Venus onto their hand-painted interpretation on this watch specifically is pure magic. Set against the Venezianico Arsenal, this watch has a 40mm stainless steel case, a thickness of 9.95mm, really thin, really elegant on the wrist, 50 meters of water resistance, and powered by the automatic Miyota 9039 movement. The case finishing is fantastic, with a particular highlight being the brushing on the bracelet. Just a beautifully executed watch that captures the connection between Venus rising from the sea and Venice emerging from the lagoon. This might be one of the most limited runs I've ever seen from IFL, only available for the next 72 hours, exclusively through iflwatches.com. There will be a link in my description, which I think you should click because then they know I sent you. So don't miss out, go click that link, and thank you so much to IFL for sponsoring this video. I also need to clarify, there are very few watches that accrue in value on the secondary market. A vast majority of watches depreciate slightly. Once again, they'll never be worth nothing, but they depreciate. So if you're looking for some real good value investments, there aren't many. Since 2022, watches have lost a lot of the speculation that was around them, and a lot of brands have been raising their prices so much that it almost aligns with secondary value. I am going to list off the watches that accrue a little bit of value, the current catalog watches that accrue value, because that's what I think people want from this video, and it's probably how I will title it. But then at the end, I'm definitely going to be giving another long-winded, arduous lecture. Rolex professional models remain a pretty safe place to store your money if that is something that really matters to you, and if you can get an allocation. The stainless steel Daytona is one of the most sought after Rolex models, and it's for good reason. It's a fantastic watch. I have a Daytona. I love it. And from the moment when I first tried one on, I understood why people love it so much. It wears fantastic on the wrist. So if you were to look at it as a product, just as a product, take away the hype, take away any feelings you have towards it, and look at it completely objectively. It is finished to a high degree. There is a fun amount of brushing and polishing, and it feels quite a bit more elevated than the typical Rolex professional model. And the standout feature, for me at least, is how thin it is. A chronograph is a harder complication to make, and a self-winding chronograph is very difficult to make thin. The Daytona clocks in at 11.9 millimeters thickness, and that is exceptional. I truly believe it is one of the best wearing Rolex models. I won't ever be selling mine. The other big Rolex professional model that accrues value going secondary is the GMT Master 2 BLRO, colloquially called the Pepsi. These retail for just shy of £10,000 and seem to be going secondary for about £15,000 on the secondary markets here in the UK. Once again, this is another Rolex model that I love. If you received an allocation, I would not recommend you sell this watch. It is such a fantastic timepiece, and it's so hard to get an allocation. Tudor have been releasing a flurry of colorful, fun takes on their pre-existing models with their daring lineup. If we look specifically at the Black Bay Chrono, the pink dial adds about £2,000 going secondary, while the Flamingo Blue seems to be priced for about £8,000 to £9,000 on the secondary market. This whole section can really just be called Nautilus. It doesn't need to be a specific reference number because they all seem to keep value. So the current catalog model, the most standard one, is the reference 5811, now only available in white gold. But even the ladies' reference 7118 holds a lot more value than ladies' watches typically do. If value retention is insanely important to you, you can never go wrong with a Nautilus. But once again, they hold so much value because they're so hard to get at retail. If you are in a place where you get allocated a Nautilus, for the love of God, do not flip it. If you decide you don't like it, just say no. There's so many people who would love that watch. Now, when it comes to entire watch brands, when you look at their entire catalog and what sells for more going secondary, FP Journe is probably the strongest overall brand. I can't stop thinking about this. So there was a Philips auction back in May 2025. And this Elegante Titanite sold for 82,000 Swiss francs, or just over $100,000 USD. That is a really high price. That is way too high. And I'm saying this as a person who owns an Elegant, and I love that watch so much. Ooh. I really need to emphasize once again that these watches I just listed only amass so much extra value on the secondary market because they're exceptionally difficult to get. These brands obviously know which of their models is the most coveted, and they want to sell it to people who aren't going to flip it. They want to sell it to people who will love these watches and love the brand. In closing, a timepiece's secondary value is hands down the least interesting thing about it. These are tiny machines that attempt to measure the fourth dimension through analog technology and actually do a shockingly good job at it. I completely understand why people care about value retention. These are expensive items, but I always urge people not to purchase something solely based on investment potential. For one, the current catalog watches that are considered good investments are exceptionally difficult to get at retail. And two, it is impossible to know what the future holds and what are going to be the good investments of tomorrow. The Rolex Daytona wasn't always the Rolex Daytona, nor was the Nautilus always as valuable as it is now. We don't know what the highly collectible watches of tomorrow will be, and we don't know if they'll be the same ones that they are right now. I always say to my friends, if you're looking to make money, watches is not the place. I've personally lost so much money. If you want to make some long-term safe money, put 20 grand into an ISA. Do some really good safe investing. That's what I would do. I would do some really good safe value investing over the long term. I wouldn't buy watches to make money. I would get into watches for how fun of a hobby it is and how great the fellow collectors are. I've met so many friends, so many people who are now close to me in my life, people who came to my son's christening, who came to my 30th birthday that I know through this hobby. So you'll meet some of the best people you've ever met before. They will make you fall in love with horology for all these different reasons, because we all love watches for different reasons. Yeah, but you can invest in great friendships where you will all be broke, but you can go watch shopping together. Anyways, I'm rambling. Let me know in the comments down below if investment got you into watches. For me, it was that they are the intersection of art, history, fashion, and engineering. Speaking of art as well, of course, IFL, thank you so much for sponsoring this video. And if you like the look of that watch, make sure you go click out. Make sure you go click the link that is in my description. Fantastic watch, only available for 72 hours. Don't miss out. Thank you for your viewership, and thank you to the Pope tier patrons. Get their names on the screen. Hey Pope tier patrons, I'm never sure about videos like this. I quite like talking about the intersection of money and really meaningful artisanal craftsmanship items. I think it's such a fun intersection to explore, but I know it's really not the reason why everyone's interested in watches. So if you like reviews, more reviews are coming soon, baby. I've got a King Seiko in, I've got Namas's in, I've got a Christopher Ward in, we've got watches I've got a Rolex in, we've got so much we need to talk about. It's coming. Bear with me. Thank you so much for supporting my weird little channel. I hope you keep enjoying it. I love making these videos. I can't believe this is my full-time job. And thank you for making this all possible. You guys rock. I hope you keep enjoying my channel, but even if you don't, I hope you keep enjoying watches forever because they're fabulous. You're fabulous. Bye, guys.